Okay, the meeting of the Citizens Involvement Committee of March 2nd, 2020 is now called to order. I've asked Dennis to call the roll by person rather than by neighborhoods so that we can have an accurate recording of exactly who is in attendance at each meeting. And then also kind of recognize the fact you're here. Hello. So, Dennis, please call the roll.
Okay. March 2nd, Berkeley Hills, Janice.
Here.
Carla.
Here.
In Kanema, we have Linda.
Here.
Myself. Caulfield, John. Here. Gaffney Lane, Amy. Here. Hazel Grove's inactive. Hillendale's inactive. McLaughlin, Denise.
Here.
Rita.
Here.
Park Place, Steve.
Here.
And Bob.
Here.
Thank you.
Just to let you know, in helping us remain healthy, staff from now on will be and has already sanitized everything that you might touch in the room. Mm-hmm. So that's really nice of them.
Have extras if you want. Feel free to grab.
And then we have a bottle of hand sanitizer up here if you wish to use it. So they're doing everything they can to keep us healthy. So thank you, staff, for doing that. Item 3 in presentations, I've moved item 7, which is Ask OCPW, to item 3C so that they don't have to sit through the whole meeting.
Thank you.
So we'll go on to item 3A. Our first presentation this evening is from Police Chief Band. And welcome, Chief. I almost didn't recognize you.
Is it because my hair grew out so long?
Oh, there you go, yeah.
Well, good evening and thanks.
You and Dr. Phil.
Thanks for having me. My name is Jim Band. I'm your police chief. I am here. I wanted to check in on our neighborhood liaison program. And I think maybe, I don't know if everybody knows exactly the purpose of that program. It's one of those programs that we put into practice and it works so well that we don't pay a lot of attention to it. And if you don't check in on things, they end up not being, you need to, they need a little care and feeding. And so I just wanted to kind of check in on that program and see how that was working for the neighborhoods. What our liaison program is, or at least the inception of it, happened actually over something that happened in a neighborhood that kind of blew up. It was in the, we had a gentleman up here on High Street. We had an assault. A neighbor assaulted another neighbor, and we responded and took this guy into custody because he admitted that he had punched his neighbor. Well, what we found out later, we had the neighborhood association was kind of up in arms with us going, how could you arrest this guy? I said, well, he hit his neighbor. That's how we arrested this guy. That's what happened. Well, what we did not know was that for the 2 or 3 months prior, the victim in this assault case had moved in with an elderly gentleman in who the older guy had said, hey, you can stay here for a few days. The guy turned out to be a drug dealer. He refused to leave, bullied this older fella, and was dealing drugs in the neighborhood. Now, the guy he ended up getting hit by was an African-American gentleman. And what we did not know leading up to the incident, but we found out later, was that this guy who had gone in and kind of squatted on these folks' property was yelling everything at every neighbor there, and including a bunch of racial epithets at the guy who ended up hitting him. So we took the rest of that information and sent that down to the DA's office so the case could kind of get the appropriate level of, if you're going to hit somebody, that guy probably had a pretty good reason to smack his neighbor. But the thing that really troubled us was we learned that for a couple months, this had been building and building and building and concerning the neighborhood, and we didn't know about it. And we'd always like to deal with something when there's smoke as opposed to when there's a raging fire. The reason the neighborhood liaison program we thought was going to work was usually when people will call in, say there's an incident at a house on a Saturday morning, they might get a day shift officer, and then Tuesday night the incident will happen again. They'll talk to maybe somebody on graveyard on Tuesday. So sometimes there's kind of a lack of communication inside the department with different shifts or when people are there. And so we assigned an officer to each neighborhood to go to the neighborhood association meetings. So they were checking in with them, and they were seeing the same face over and over. And the officers could kind of get to know the neighborhood and what's normal in the neighborhood. And it was our way of sort of addressing things when they were small, as opposed to letting them get to these really big things. And we're coming in when the only thing we can really do is arrest somebody, when a lot of times we can affect these livability issues when they're a lot smaller. So that was the inception of this program, and it's been really successful. We have also been having our traffic officers show up at your neighborhood association meetings, or they should be. And occasionally our homeless liaison officer before Mike Day and now Dan Haynes, I know, has also hit several neighborhood associations. So that's kind of the background. If you didn't know what led to our liaison program, you should each have a liaison rep assigned to your neighborhood. And I just wanted to, the one other thing that we've done historically is collected statistics that you see showing up that show what crime stats have been happening in your neighborhood and then kind of how that compares to other neighborhoods. So that's what we've done because we thought it would be a good idea and sort of tweaked it a little bit over time in response to what some neighborhoods have wanted. So I'm here to kind of ask you how that's going, and to find out if there's something different that you would like to see in that program, something you'd like to see more of or less of. And that's really my only purpose, was to just come in and check in on our neighborhood liaison program.
We're content with our gentleman that comes in. I know my first meeting, leading the chairman, I had one speaker that week. And he also came in late because he was handling some business, so he came in, so we had extra time to just sit, an extra 10, 15 minutes to talk and go over things happening. So it was very, very good. And the community really liked the opportunity just to be able to sit and talk and find different things that were going on. So we're very happy with what we get, and the people respond very well in our neighborhood.
Good.
Our Park Place representative has been very helpful with us. He comes to most of all of our meetings. One thing I'd like to ask, though, is you just mentioned that you provide the information to the neighborhoods on the activities in their neighborhoods. But I also understand that the police area maps don't match the boundaries of the neighborhoods. What do they call those areas the police have?
So we do have dispatch districts in the city, and they don't perfectly align with the neighborhood, but the rough idea is pretty close.
I wonder if you could provide the CIC members with those district maps.
Yeah.
So when we get the information from the police officers, we can see how closely they represent what's going on in each neighborhood. I had one person that told me, I take everything he says with a grain of salt, but he considers the police reports useless because they don't match the boundaries. Well, I disagree with him a lot, because the ones that I've seen related to Park Place are very helpful.
Yes, yeah, so some of them are much easier, more easily aligned with the neighborhood than others. We recently changed our report writing software and our CAD software, and so there might be some ability for us to sort of tweak some of that and make it line up a little closer. The interesting thing is, as our technology's gotten better, you think the ability to search data would be better, but it's actually not. The older system seems to be better, or we just maybe haven't figured it out yet, but it isn't for lack of trying.
I guess we're gonna chime in. Kanema, we have the two parks, and we've been very happy with the liaison and the officer that comes at each of our meetings and giving us an update. And there's a lot of concern in our neighborhood about the trafficking within the two parks, Old Kanema Park and the Children's Park. And the conversation, both from the neighbors who are present and questions asked, has been very beneficial to our community.
Good,
Thank you.
good.
I'd like to chime in also. Our liaison officer, Young, comes to all of our meetings, and it's always good to see him. He gives us a report of the statistics of crime that have happened in the last couple of months. When we had the traffic officer come, it was really fun because we got to ask what-if questions.
Yeah.
Well, what if you're turning left and there's some, all those kinds of, so that was educational and fun. So we're happy with having them at our meetings. It's good for the neighbors to see who's around and protecting us, so.
We've gotten a lot of really good information. A lot of what we do is only as good as the information we have. So I think, has been, when I look at different community policing conversations about what that is in a lot of departments, it's a few people, who do, and I think that this is probably as good a model for true community policing and interaction and really learning what specifically neighborhoods want. And really, as it relates to traffic, traffic is really an important thing to neighborhoods. So,
Amy?
I just wanted to
you're sideways.
turn on my microphone, sorry. Love the liaison. We're looking forward to meeting ours in a couple weeks. My concern, when they come to the meeting, they're always encouraging us to call the non-emergency number, when it's not an emergency, which is great. The feedback we're getting, though, is that when we call the non-emergency number, the dispatchers, treat you like, why are you even calling? And when we bring up why we called, the officer's like, yes, that's exactly why we want you to call. So I don't know where the disconnect there is and if you have any control over talking to the dispatchers. But it's like, if you see somebody that's doing something that you're like, yeah, I don't know. And so it's not like it's an emergency, but
Sure.
The dispatchers are just like, okay, why are you calling?
Yeah, I don't, without something more specific. So dispatchers are basically, they're getting just loads of calls.
Sure.
And it's non-emergency, but they are answering the 911 calls. So I'm not saying that they don't miss things, but generally they're trying to put things in boxes. Is this a house on fire? Is this something,
Usually it's transients or mental health that have been brought up in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
That when we call, and I've had it happen to me, when I call the dispatcher is just like, oh, not even can I get your name, anything. It's just oh, well, where was that again? And so, and I followed up when Cindy was our liaison, and she's like, yeah, well, that never came through. So I don't know where the...
Yeah, so I would say keep going, always keep going. I think that one of the things that sometimes the statistics help us. Sometimes what you're going to call might not be something that, whether it's what's going on that night, might not always net what you want. It is reporting statistically so we can figure things out and know where to put resources. But I think we also find sometimes there are things that people, so they fall into categories. So maybe there's something that you don't think is something that's really something, and that might get through. Maybe there's something you think is something and it doesn't get through, like what you're saying. I can't really speak to that without specifics.
It's just hard hearing the officer say, well, we didn't know about that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this program is specifically designed to try and catch those things, because there are things that are not going to make it onto the dispatch floor sometimes. But if you're telling your liaison officer...
yeah, but they say you got to call.
Yeah.
So, just letting you know.
Well,
It's
okay.
just a,
Well, I can tell you
it's
this.
a hard thing.
So one thing I know is things that liaison officers, that you tell them, they do bring back to the department. So there might be some things like you're mentioning that that don't get through, but I can tell you that they are bringing the information back to us. So I know that's not much of an answer.
It's an answer.
Yeah.
Carla?
Our officers are great. So, and we have a regular criminal, I'm sure you know who we're talking about, in Barclay Hills that kind of bugs all the businesses and everything. He's been arrested recently, but, officers have been really on it, and we've been able to call So it's been fantastic, and we get an update on crime and traffic, and it's been awesome. So thank you.
You know, one thing I'll say to kind of something that Amy was talking about, that over the last few years, in terms of the homeless population, which has become really, I think, probably our top livability issue in the city. It used to be, when I first started working here, that if we got a call that, hey, there's somebody at 7th and Washington screaming at the moon, that was a thing. Yeah, we'll go down there, we'll check that out. That's out of the ordinary. Some of those things are not really out of the ordinary anymore. And so is screaming at the moon a crime? It's not. And we have more and more those kind of things going on. And so for us, trying to figure out how to navigate that as we learn kind of a new model of policing in our city has been kind of an educational process for us, and certainly the community too.
And in our parks, definitely.
Yeah.
In our green spaces, we have a famous one that hits himself with like all sorts of things in the head, and it's like, what do you do with it? Because he's hurting himself.
Well, while the chief is still with us, I'm going to make an announcement. At the award ceremony recently, we had the honor of Ken Basinger, Karen Bleha, and our own Dennis Anderson being awarded Citizens of the Year for their efforts of getting the Robert Lipke's boots bronzed for the new police station, and of course Dennis's beautiful painting of his boots in the police car. So let's give them a big hand.
Thank you, Bob.
Well, thank you very much. If you ever think of anything that you didn't ask, or you can email me at any time, and I always get back to people. So thank you very much.
Our next presentation is from our new library director, Greg Williams. Welcome, Mr. Williams, to the CIC.
Do the right one.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's very nice to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm glad to spend a couple minutes this evening with you. My name is Greg Williams. I'm the new library director at the Oregon City Library. I think this is the start of my 5th week, so you'll be gentle with some of the questions. I'll do my best to answer them. Just to give you a little background on me, I most recently worked for Clackamas County. I was the deputy director of the Business and Community Services Department, which oversaw 2 libraries, the library district and the Centralized Library Network Office, which provides services to all of the 13 library locations within Clackamas County. Before that, I managed the Library Network Office, and in that capacity, I worked very closely with the staff of all libraries, including the Oregon City Library during construction. So I was right there with Mo, helping her plan out some things, including the Wi-Fi, the automated materials handler that we have and love so much in the library. And then before that, I was a librarian at the Westland Public Library. So just a little bit about me. And we will get started on the presentation. So tonight I was going to just provide a little information about the library. I'm not sure how much of this you may know already or not, so I'll try to keep it brief. I'm going to talk a little bit about the library's strategic plan, just to give everybody an idea of where the library is headed over the next 5 years or so. And then I'll just open it up to some questions and answers. So if that sounds all right, we'll get started. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the library's, some of the guiding principles that we hold dear with the library. These guiding principles were developed as part of our strategic planning process. They were developed in conjunction with community members, with our library board, and with staff. And so you can see our guiding principles are the library. We want to offer equal access to the vast range of information that's out there. We really want to deliver library service to the entire community. We want to make sure that we're representing the needs and interests of every member of our community, no matter where they come from, where they are in life. We always want to advance literacy and promote a love of lifelong learning. We want to ignite imaginations. That's one of my favorite ones, and help people reach their full potential as individuals and citizens by providing them access to materials and services which really inspire them and speak to the human spirit and human creativity. And finally, we want to serve as a community center, somewhere that people can gather, a safe place where they can both make connections between themselves and also connect on different ideas and trade ideas and information back and forth. So those are a couple of the guiding principles that inspire us as staff members each and every day. So from those principles, we developed a library vision as part of our strategic planning process, and I've presented it here. It's to promote literacy and learning, to celebrate curiosity and diversity, and I love that word, celebrate, and support transformation in thriving, safe, and inclusive spaces. So it's kind of encapsulating what our vision is, what we hope to accomplish. And the way we do that, it's our mission. So we empower every youth, adult, and senior in our service area through our innovative and varied resources and programs, through our responsive, well-trained, and personable staff, through the connections we help to foster with other community resources and events, by providing inclusive, accessible services to all, and providing welcoming spaces to gather and build community. So, now, when we talk about our service area, every youth, adult, and senior in our service area, I find all this fascinating, so I just want to make sure everybody knows. So the Oregon City Public Library has a very large service area. We are part of the Clackamas County Library District, and each library within the library district has a designated area that they serve. And so our service area, you can see on the map there, within the red square, the cross-hatched areas, that's the city portion, but you can also see there's a very large portion of unincorporated Clackamas County that we serve. So population-wise, our service area is about 60,000 people. Approximately 35,000 of those are city residents and 25,000 are unincorporated residents. And so it's one of our goals is to make sure that when we're providing services, we are taking into account the needs of everybody within our service area, both city and unincorporated residents. So a couple of quick facts about the library. So as I mentioned, the Oregon City Public Library is a member of the Link Cooperative. Those are the 13 public libraries within Clackamas County. And those 13 libraries cooperate to share resources and provide access to nearly 1 million items throughout the county. So anybody who is a member who has a card at any library in Clackamas County can easily place a hold on any other item at any other library in the county and get it, if it's on the shelf, usually within 27 hours. So county runs a very, very efficient courier service. Within Oregon City, we've got approximately 20,000 registered borrowers who are active. We have approximately 140,000 items in our collection. 55,000 of those are physical, so books, DVDs, audiobooks, the like, on the shelves or in people's hands, and access to approximately 85,000 digital items, so ebooks, downloadable audiobooks, and the like. In 2018-2019, we counted approximately 550,000 circulations. So it's a lot of traffic, a lot of materials going in and out. All right, so now I'm going to talk just a little bit about our strategic plan. So in 2019, the library got together. We assembled a group of stakeholders to really help us vision what the next 5 years were going to look like. So I think the vision of the previous 5 years was build a building, build a building. So we did that, we got that building built, and now the question is, okay, we've got this wonderful facility, we've got a great staff. What do we want to do with it? Where do we want to take that and go with it? And so the strategic plan was an effort to kind of answer those questions and chart out a path for the next 5 years. And I'm not going to go through the entire strategic plan. It is available online at that link I provided, but I did want to focus on kind of the 5 key strategic focuses that the plan encompasses. Those are, first of all, our first strategic focus is to create young readers. The benefits, educational and life-wise and career-wise to kids who start to read at an early age are incalculable. And we want to do everything we possibly can to create that love of reading early in life, get kids ready for school. Some of the ways we anticipate we're going to go about doing this is explore more opportunities for outreach and partnerships, especially with our school districts. We want to look at ways to reach some underprivileged and at-risk youth. We want to make sure that young readers have access to materials that they can read and check out. And we also want to do everything we can to increase the number of books that are owned by kids under 5 within the Oregon City Public Library service area. And one of the initiatives we've done recently in conjunction with our library foundation is what's called the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, where kids can sign up and they get a book mailed to them every month, and it's theirs to keep. And so it's just creating that love of reading and that love of books amongst kids. Our second strategic focus is know your community. So we know how important it is that the library reflects the needs and the desires and the wants of our community, our very large and diverse community. And so one of our goals is to make sure we understand that community. So as part of this focus, we are going to be engaging in a lot of assessment and survey activities to make sure that we understand what needs are out there in the community. We want to make sure that we're a bigger part of the Oregon City community. So everybody from the director down to staff are going to be making an effort to be more engaged with community groups. We want to meet people where they are. We want to try to expand our services outside of our building and to reach some of those other areas within that very large service area. And we also want to make sure that we're a good, easy, reliable source for community information for our patrons and residents who might have questions, whether that's online, whether that's brochures or information in the library, or even our staff understanding about what community groups and resources are out there. We want to make sure we provide that information. Our third strategic focus is stimulating imagination. And so we want to make sure that we keep our library collection vibrant. We want to keep it growing, make sure it's got plenty of wonderful, interesting materials there for folks. We also want to make sure that we provide materials and resources in new forms. Technology, as I think everybody knows, technology is always changing. There's some new app or some new platform that comes along, monthly, weekly. And we want to make sure that we are keeping abreast of those and using those technologies to reach as many people as we possibly can. We want to make sure, strategic focus number 4, is that our patrons can visit a comfortable place. So one of the key components of achieving that is a long-range facilities plan. So we've got this great new library. We want to make sure we have plans in place to maintain it, to expand it or modify it as need be, to make sure that this is going to be a community asset that is viable and sustainable going forward in the long term. And then finally, our last strategic focus is what we're calling fortifying administrative infrastructure. And that's something that's near and dear to my heart. That's basically making sure that we have a sustainable model for providing service. We all know, everybody who works at the library, we all know that we're temporary stewards of this wonderful community asset. And it's incumbent upon us to ensure that this institution survives us and is viable and sustainable going forward for the community for years to come. So we want to look at things like our policies and our procedures to make sure we're being prudent, responsible stewards of taxpayer funds, that we're taking advantage of efficiencies and economies of scale. We want to make sure we have a well-trained staff and just make sure we have all those procedures and policies in place to help us fulfill our mission. So that's my brief presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Yes.
So I have kids, and one in middle school, one in high school, one heading towards elementary school eventually. And I'm hearing with the new builds at school, obviously they're pretty much eliminating the libraries. So is there a plan? I mean, are you guys prepared to take on kind of working with the school district, or how's that going to work?
So that's an industry-wide challenge. So over the past 10, 20 years, the number of school librarians in school districts around the country has just dropped precipitously. And it pains us as librarians to see that. So we are doing everything we can to partner with our school districts. We do significant outreach. We have first grade classes. We try to get every first grade class from every school to come to the library and take a tour. We give them a special story time. We let them play with our sorter. We send our youth services librarians out to each school to talk with staff there. We have one going out, I think, next week. We work with the school district. We have the school librarians and the library professionals in the school district have, I believe it's a quarterly meeting. We host that at the library, and we make sure that our staff is there so that we can talk with them, understand what their needs are, what they're trying to do, and how we can support that. Now, I will say a public library can never totally replace or serve the exact same function as a school librarian could, but we are always looking for opportunities to partner with the schools as best we can and support what they want to do, and really trying to get those kids ready to read when they enter school.
Well, and I think you guys are doing the best you can. It's just the thing that I'm concerned about is the parents that won't take their kids to the public library and relied on the school library. And I don't know if there's a middle, I mean, that's not your responsibility, but that's a lot of responsibility for you guys to try to take on when the school district isn't having it there. So anyways, that's just my feedback. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's so important for children to have books, and is there a way it's already happening that people donate books and they're distributed, or?
Yes, so we always take donations. Currently, we do give many of those to our friends group, and they sell them in their shop to raise money to promote services and programs. Mm-hmm. There is an organization, we just had a field trip out there 2 weeks ago, and I may get the name wrong, so forgive me. It's the Clackamas Bookshelf, I believe, is what it is. And what they do is they take donations of materials, and they do have a store and they sell them, but they use that money to buy brand new copies of books, and they take them to classrooms all throughout the county and give them to kids. And so that is one partnership which we are very interested in seeing if we can develop further. As part of normal library operations, we call it weeding. There are materials that are no longer useful for our collection, and normally we give those to the friends, but sometimes that's more than they can handle. So we think that would be a great place to potentially give some of these materials to help get more books into kids' hands. So,
could you maybe include that as an article in the Trail News next time?
Sure. I can. Maybe not next time because we're at the very early stages of working with this group, but yes, we can definitely.
Possible.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Linda.
You have a program for reading, children learning to read, and they read with dogs.
Yes.
So, why aren't well-behaved dogs allowed in the library?
I would say, that's a very good question. I would say that there are state laws regarding service animals and pets and the like, and so we are bound by Oregon revised statute over what animals are allowed in there. From an operational point of view, it can be challenging. I remember when I was at West Lynn, what may be a well-behaved or a non-threatening animal to one person may cause other patrons and other customers great angst and great anxiety. And so we want to try to balance that and make sure we have a very welcoming environment for everybody. And one of the better ways to do that is to make sure that we're just consistently applying Oregon revised statute.
Amy?
Denise was waiting. She was going to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I have two questions. Are you going to be able to have the community room available in the evenings for community groups to use? And, okay, go ahead, Nancy.
Okay. I know that has been something we've been working on, so we have recently made some hardware upgrades so that we have a little more flexibility in how we program the space after hours. Mm-hmm. I will be honest with you, one of the difficulties is after hours, when the facility is open and those meetings are open to the public, they are open to the public. And so we as library staff, we go through training and we're better prepared to deal with some of the behavioral issues that we see on an ongoing basis. And we want to make sure that if we are to open the facility after hours, that we can make sure that everybody who's there has a similarly safe environment. And without a staff member there, it's challenging. So we're looking at that and trying to figure out the right balance, how we balance, the risk, how we balance, access, and making that facility available after hours. So in the short term, we always have a staff member there. So we have a staff member there who is waiting around. I will be there this Thursday. I think we have a neighborhood association meeting. So I will be there to kind of watch out and make sure that if somebody sneaks in and wants to stay after hours, so.
And my second question is very important. Are you going to do the May the 4th?
Oh, absolutely. I am so excited about that. So one of the things that I trotted out at a couple of my interviews is I already have an X-Wing pilot costume. So, and I don't have nearly enough opportunities to wear it. So I am very excited. I actually bought some new boots and gloves and a chest piece. So, I'm over the moon about being able to do that. So yes.
Amy?
In going along with Carla and the schools and community outreach, I know that the schools used to work with a program called SMART, Start Making a Reader Today. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it would actually be community members were going in and would read with these kids who don't always have an opportunity to read at home. And a lot of the schools, because they didn't have appropriate staffing, that program kind of slipped by the wayside, which is a travesty. And I just wondered if you guys have ever worked with that program before.
That I do not know off the top of my head if Oregon City has. I can certainly ask our children's staff, and I'm happy to get back to you. Okay. I mean, I remember when I was at West Lynn, we had a program called 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten, and a lot of that was working with parents, trying to help them develop some skills and the habit of reading with their kids. And so something like this, again, it's that reading out loud with kids, getting them in the habit of it is so vitally important.
Yeah, and there were so many volunteers that were willing to come. They just didn't have the staffing in the school that wanted to be in charge of it. Okay. So I don't know I know it's a national program, so.
Let me check into that. I will check that and I can get some information back to you.
Steve?
So I'm on the management team of the Friends of the Library bookstore, and we really appreciate all the books that we get, even if we can't take them all, and we donate excess books to the Clackamas. So once they just pass through, we also donate to Little Free Libraries.
Yes.
And we're starting to get some of those in town. So there's lots of other places that books go to, other than dumpsters, and so we're very pleased with the results we're getting, and happy to see you here.
Well, great. Well, thank you, and thank you so much. We are so incredibly grateful for all the support that our friends give us. So thank you very much.
Carla?
Last thing is, I was with Jennings and Candy Lane's PTA. I was the treasurer there. We had a fundraiser for a readathon. And I know that you guys do a summer program, that kids can earn, little rewards and whatever, even up to movie tickets. Is there something maybe that would be motivating to go? I know that obviously you're unlimited resources, but to be involved with schools, some type of program where it motivates kids to come in and read, or during the school year.
During the school year.
Yeah, and then if kids maybe don't have access to it, that maybe the teachers could make a list to help kind of know, like they actually reach out to you guys as a resource, just so there's some type of community. I mean, mainly the classroom should handle that, but maybe that they could somehow manage something, because with the schools not having any libraries anymore.
Right. I know for a fact that we do that informally. So, we do make sure that teachers and kids know that we're there as resources for them. But like a winter reading program or a non-summer reading, that's a great idea. So I'll run that. I'll run that by our youth services department.
Because the PTA at Jennings and Candy did like a readathon where the kids had access to books. I think the program itself cost like 25% of the profits. But so if there was some alternative that was motivating, and maybe the schools could manage their own thing, but kind of work with you guys and more communication, it'd be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing which we have done recently is we created what we call an educator card. So that's a special library card that allows educators, and we have a fairly liberal definition of educators, so it's anybody who works at a homeschool or a classroom or a school district school. It basically basically gives them access to a lot more books at once with a longer loan period and no late fees, I believe. So we try to make sure that we provide educators with additional resources to help reach their classroom kids. But this is another great idea that we could look into. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Rita?
I talked with someone from Holcomb School, or that was a volunteer with the SMART program, I believe. So it would be a good thing as, I mean, we can work on it too as neighborhoods, but if there's a chance that there is a program sort of on the cusp here, it might be wonderful to advertise. I mean, there's such a great children's library, but I know as concerned with parents not bringing the children and parents not reading to their children. And it makes a difference. I learned when my kids were little and they both became just volume.
Yep. So, and again, we may be doing something with SMART, so 5 weeks into the job, so I don't want to say one way or the other, so
right.
I'll check with my staff, but yeah, it's a great thing. And some of my most cherished memories are reading with my son as he was growing up, so yes, it's a wonderful thing.
I'll bring up, which will have to be the last question because we have quite a lot to cover tonight. By the way, when I was in the first grade, I contracted German measles.
Oh, geez.
And I missed school for several weeks, and my mother taught me how to read, and that developed into a lifelong love of reading, so it really works. But my question is, and I guess now that I think about it, it goes more to Steve than to you, is the library or the Friends going to continue having a booth at the farmer's market in the summertime?
The issue that we've had is having volunteers that were willing to set up, take down, and staff the booth. We have someone that we hope will be able to do that starting this next year. It's been probably 3 years since we stopped having a booth, but we hope to have one again.
Well, if anybody here on the CIC would be willing to volunteer to help them, I'm sure they'd welcome your assistance. Well, thank you very much for that information on the library.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and I encourage everybody to come to the library. Stop by my office and say hello anytime you want. Thank you.
Our next presentation will be from John Lewis, the Director of Public Works. Public Works used to have a regular item on the agenda, Ask OCPW, and it was removed several years ago. And I've asked John to step in and start that again, along with my communications with the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Oregon City Organization, for them to also come forward and have regular presentations, because they were pretty valuable. They brought a lot of information. What it's boiling down to probably is that we'll have each of those organizations present something to us on a regular basis quarterly with kind of a rotating schedule for each one of them, so that, because if we had all three every single night, we just wouldn't have time in the agenda to cover them all. But if they have something extra special, they can, of course, request to be on the agenda at any time. So anyway, without any further ado, welcome the famous John Lewis.
The famous John Lewis. I like that. Thank you, Bob. That was good. By the way, we always have something extra special, Bob, but we like the idea of coming quarterly. So thank you for that. So we met today, right? Christina and Bob and I met today and talked about you shaved. You look much better. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. Anyway, we met to talk about the kind of things you'd like to hear and the way in which maybe you might appreciate getting some of the information. So there's some flyers, some of which, well, most of which are up here on the screen. There's one staff report from Transportation Advisory Committee meeting in there that's not on the screen, but just wanted to share that information. So I got about 10 items, some of which there's a graphic for, others not. So I didn't have a lot of time to put it together, but I went through my pile of things and thought I'd grab about 10 items that I thought you might be interested in. So I'll try and get through those pretty quickly. And I was planning to set my timer so I wouldn't go too late. But so probably the keynote project in Oregon City is the Malal Avenue project. And actually, Christina, can you just not show that maybe for now? Because it's not actually, doesn't show. So there we go. The Malal Avenue project is really a transportation improvement project on a boulevard you're all very familiar with. It's between Beaver Creek Road and Highway 213. That roadway, it's not a highway, that roadway moves a lot of traffic through Oregon City, probably about 20,000 vehicles a day. And the project is really designed to help with alternate modes of transportation. So we got some grant funding through Metro for, driving improvements, but really the grant was focused on alternate modes, which would be biking and walking. So better sidewalk improvements, better street lighting, bike lanes. It's also, the Malal Avenue corridor is a corridor that for years has been intended for access management. So what a lot of folks either love or hate is the medians. And so there's some medians proposed along the boulevard and just kind of cleaning up some of the driveway connections along that, trying to prevent some of those left turn accidents that you might typically see where people are making wide sweeping turns, rushing to get into a driveway when there's oncoming traffic that maybe might be affected by that rushing movement. So it's really a safety project, and there's a lot of elements to it that we think that the community is really going to love. There's also some controversial issues about that particular project that we've talked about. We met with the City Commission in February to give them an update. Our intent was to move out to get bids in February, but we've put that on hold a little bit. So we've got a meeting Wednesday night with the City Commission. It's a work session. It's going to be before the City Commission, so it's a 6 o'clock meeting, but there's several issues that the City Commission wanted to talk about, and I wanted staff to do more to articulate either our plans or our justification for some of the plans that we have. So we're going to do that on Wednesday night, so just wanted to let you know if you're interested in that. It's an open meeting. Myers Road, the new segment of Myers Road, or what we call Myers Road Extension Project, that's another one that is pretty active right now. A lot of people see it and wonder, well, why come it's not paved and open yet? Well, it's because there's a lot going on there that you don't see necessarily. So if you're headed southbound on Highway 213, just past the community college, you'll see that all the excavation work that's happened there, where they've done a lot of grading, and they pretty much graded it out as it will be in the finished product. But but right now they're working on a lot of utility work. So they were working on sewer line. They're now moved into water line. I think they're still working on sewer line, but they brought in another crew for water line, and the gas company's up in there as well. So a lot of utility work going on in there, and pretty soon BPA will be in there. There's a BPA tower that needs to be raised. And so a lot of work. That project, not only does it include Myers Road, but they're soon to move out and start working into the Highway 213. So adding the lane configurations there so that there will be a left turn pocket, completely new signalization there, new ADA ramps on all the corners. And then right now there's a concrete median in that left turn pocket. So you don't think of that being there very often. You probably hardly even notice it anymore because it's been there for so long, but that whole concrete median will come out, and that'll become a left turn lane onto the new Myers Road. So that project's moving along as planned. It's still a pretty long project, just with the BPA work and trying to schedule that with all the utility work. That project's not supposed to be completed until November of 2021. So we're hoping that we'll get that done a little sooner, but we're not promising that at this point in time. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed. The other side, the existing side of Myers Road, you've probably, if you use that road at all, you probably noticed Northwest Natural Gas has been out there. So they're building a 6-inch gas line really from Claremont all the way down Myers Road, and will connect to the new Myers Road with this new gas line. So lots of thoughts about growth in that area and how to serve that with gas, and that's why that gas line was needed. We have limited their work time frame, and we're hoping they can get that entire stretch done by June. It's going pretty slow, though. We're noticing things are not moving along quite as fast as we'd hoped or that they'd hoped. But just know that we don't really want the Malala Avenue project and the Myers Road project to be happening at the same time, because we know that there'll be a lot of traffic that will choose to use Myers Road while Malala Avenue is under construction. So good project. The gas company, I think, is doing a good job trying to control traffic. Hopefully you haven't been too impacted by that, but it is, and they are going to take a lane. So it's going to be, when you drive and get to that work zone, you're going to probably have to wait for oncoming traffic, because it's really only one lane of traffic. There's a couple little projects. We've got, oh, by the way, I was indicating, so Malala Avenue, that's pretty much entirely in your neighborhood, right?
A little bit of Hillendale.
A little bit of Hillendale, and the Myers Road project is also in Gaffney Lane, but it's also in the Caulfield neighborhood. So I tried to earmark where these different projects are so that you'll know that they're in your neighborhood. The next project that I wanted to mention was the 2020 I&I reduction project. So it's a sewer project. It's not nearly as spicy as the roadway project, but it is an interesting project. I&I stands for infiltration and inflow, and we're trying to reduce the amount of stormwater or groundwater that get into the sanitary system. And one of the problems that we have, this particular project's in the Rivercrest neighborhood. It's actually in Rivercrest and McLaughlin, because there's a couple of elements to it. A couple of small pieces in the McLaughlin neighborhood, but the Rivercrest neighborhood really up by Park and I'm forgetting the loop, but up near the Rivercrest Park up there, there's a looped drive through there. I can't remember the name of it. Where is Rivercrest?
Park Drive?
Not here.
They're not here. Anyway, it's in the Park Place neighborhood, or in the Rivercrest neighborhood, sorry. And the idea there is all their catch basins in that neighborhood, and there's about 6 or 8 of them, are connected to the sewer system. And in Oregon City, we have a separated sewer and storm sewer system. So this project would build a parallel storm system that would pick up all those catch basins and take them to this, probably Singer Creek is where that discharges. So interesting project. If you remember, we did a sewer project along Lynn Avenue that was designed to increase the size of the sewer line in Lynn Avenue, and the reason for that was partially because we had a lot of catch basins collected to it, and we were having overflows. In the wintertime, it would rain real hard. All those catch basins would drain into the sanitary system, and we'd see the sewer system back up because of all that extra flow. So this project will definitely correct that. We did do a pipe upgrade project, but this was the second phase. So, and you know, as we move forward with our annual, what we call the I&I program or I&I reduction program, McLaughlin neighborhood, Rivercrest neighborhood, those are 2 neighborhoods that have been identified as having a lot of this I&I or leaky pipes problem. So just know that those neighborhoods are going to have a lot of work in the upcoming next couple of years.
Was it Harding? Is that the name of the
Harding.
road?
Thank you. Yeah, Harding Loop. All right. I do have this handout that was up here was the 2020 street projects, and one of the things that I wanted to mention on this one was we always have a preventative maintenance list, and we usually have a rehab list. So this is the preventative maintenance list. So this is mostly slurry seal projects. So if you recall, in the past, we've been doing this for many years now. Slurry seal is really a pretty surface coating that just, the idea there is to extend the wear of a good street, not necessarily, doesn't really do much for a street that's really kind of aged and reached the end of its life. This is more for those streets that have maybe 10 years of service on them and the surface is starting to wear in a way that water may be penetrating through the asphalt, so that Slurry Seal kind of seals up those pores in the pavement and extends the life of the pavement. So these are those streets where we're, I always call it spreading the love of pavement maintenance. And so if you live on one of these streets, usually it's a day of displacement because the crew comes in and does puts the Slurry Seal down on the pavement, and then takes a little while to cure out and dry before you can drive on it. But that's most of the work that we're doing this year, because the majority of the pavement maintenance dollars for this year are going towards Molalla Avenue. So one other big component of Molalla Avenue that folks, I think, tend to forget about, but it's going to be significant in just the construction phasing of Molalla Avenue, is the structural section of that roadway. It's an old it's an old county road and an old state road that used to be kind of farm to market kind of a road. So we're actually going to be removing some of the old concrete panel that was actually part of the original market road that's still there, and we're going to curb to curb remove the asphalt and remove the subgrade, and that's about a 20-inch section, 20 inches deep, right? So imagine, if you will, all that material having to come out and be replaced with gravel as a foundation, and then asphalt on top of that. So all of that work is going to be costly, and it's a complete structural reconstruction of Molalla Avenue. So a lot of pavement maintenance fees are going to that project as well. So this year, mostly Slurry Seal, with the exception of Molalla Avenue. Let's see. Oh, one other project that many of you are familiar with, this is in the McLaughlin neighborhood again, but we did 5 blocks of High Street water line, and we're going to be doing the next 5 or 6 blocks of High Street. So from 3rd really to Singer Hill, we're going to be replacing the water line in High Street. So that was pretty disruptive last time we did that, and we tried to combine the water line work, and then right after we brought in the street work. It was just too much to take on in one season. So this year we're going to do the water line work this year, and then deal with the street work next year. So it'll be trench patching, kind of a finish when we're done with the water line work. But our plan is to come back and tear out High Street just like we did with the other segment of High Street in the future. South 2nd Street, there's a small project, but I think it's a neat project. It's between High Street and Center Street. So as you come up the hill from Highway 99 up near Tumwater there, and you come up South 2nd, there's a block there that's really, really steep. And when we rebuilt that roadway section just a couple years ago, same time we did the water line and the gas line and all the other utility improvements that we did there, we changed the grade there just enough to where it really kind of created some transitional problems for those driveways. And there used to be a 2-foot wide sidewalk there. And obviously 2-foot wide sidewalk's not ADA accessible, and yet that section of roadway is actually one of our locations where we'd like better sidewalk connectivity. The idea is eventually there'd be sidewalk that or a walking trail or path that would get you up into Waterboard Park. So we're going to move forward with that project, and well, I hope we are. It goes in front of the City Commission tomorrow, so hopefully we'll get Rachel's vote. So the idea is to build the sidewalk, and it's pretty challenging because the cross slopes there are pretty intense. There's a lot of bedrock in that area as well. But we think it's a good little project. It's about a $70,000 project, and something that we need to do. We need to finish that up. I don't know if you've driven by there, but there's a lot of gravel left there, and we really haven't done the right job with transitioning from the curb line to into the driveway. So that's another nice little project that's coming our way. And the next topic is the flyer that's not on here, but it's in your packet or in your information that we handed out. This is something that we went over with the Transportation Advisory Committee. We did that on February 18th. I'm not going to really go that deep into it because if you really want to see it, you can watch the Transportation Advisory Committee meeting, but it's not up there. It's not up there, sorry. So really the bottom line is we've received several, mostly transportation-related grants, some related to safety. My recollect is in total we're about $2.6 million in grant funding that we've received, and really it's safety improvements along Beaver Creek Road, mostly signalization changes between Maple Lane and Warner Milne. So that's a big project. You'll see safer backlit signals that have reflective tape on the backside of them. All the controllers will be replaced, and the signals will be interconnected. So it should be more efficient too. That's what we're hoping for. The other piece to that is at Highway 213 and Beaver Creek Road, as you come up the hill on Highway 213 and come to Beaver Creek Road, we've seen a lot of accidents there, mostly rear end accidents. So we think a lot of that happens we know a lot of that happens during the daytime, which is kind of a surprise, and in good weather conditions, which is kind of a surprise, but still people are just traveling too fast up Highway 213. And then the congestion happens at the intersection. So that's maybe some of the reason for the accidents. But this signal would be really a signal ahead or congestion ahead kind of a signal, or not a signal, but a sign that would be on Highway 213. So this grant funding will help support that. They're also doing some kind of interesting stuff with the signal controller at that location with some detection, not like radar detection, but detection that can tell when a vehicle is trying to cut through a yellow light. And because that's such a wide intersection, oftentimes or maybe you're not, well, let's just assume you're not trying. Let's just say you misjudge and you are moving through that intersection under a yellow. You may get the red light, but the oncoming traffic or the other movements in that signal may get the green light and move forward too quickly. And so this detection equipment it's much smarter and will have the ability to detect those vehicles that are coming too late and pause on that green time for the opposing traffic. So it's a pretty neat safety measure that should be a big improvement at that intersection. Throughout the city, besides those Beaver Creek signals, we got some grant money along with the entire county. So we were a co-applicant with the county on signal upgrades throughout the county. So you should see signal-wide improvements in other places besides Oregon City. But we've got several additional signals. I want to say I've forgotten the number, but I want to say we have like 16 other signals aside from those that we've either improved into or planning to improve through the grant that I just mentioned, or along Malala Avenue, or we've done quite a bit of signal improvement on Washington as well. So everything else that hasn't been improved, it's our intent to improve with this grant, this additional grant, what we call a TISMO grant. So that should be a good one. And then the other thing that I think you may have heard about or may not have, but we've been talking about it at TAC a fair amount, was the Metro, oh shoot, where'd it go? I lost it. Well, I'm not seeing it on this list. Let me come back to that one then, because it's not on this list for some reason, but the Metro Regional Flexible Funds is, and I didn't talk about that one. So that's $673,000 grant for a project along 99E between 10th and the tunnel. And the idea there is to extend something similar to what we have in the other segment of 99E, where there's the boardwalk kind of a improvement so that there's wider sidewalks there and better pedestrian access and opportunity for bicyclists. So I know you all are familiar with that stretch between 10th and really the Willamette Falls Legacy Project. Pretty narrow sidewalks. Doesn't feel very comfortable if you're a pedestrian. And then when you transition from one side of the bridge to the other, it gets really narrow right there. So what kind of concepts can better support pedestrian and bicyclist activity along that route? That's the big question, and we suspect it would be something possibly even cantilevered or a separate structure that's off 99E. So I don't know if you've ever paid attention, but right where McMinimum's is along 99E, if you ever sit on that patio right there and look off the edge, that's an actual elevated section of Highway 99E. It's a bridge, and so there's really not really good opportunity to make that any wider without something special, and that's what this funding would help support, is try to figure out how exactly we would do something like that. So the project that's not on here that I thought was on here was, I just want to make sure I'm not missing it, but what we're calling it is a last mile shuttle service. So Clackamas County and several other agencies in Clackamas County and Oregon City, we applied for a variety of grant funds for the last mile shuttle service, and that would be a service that would supplement the TriMet service. So we've heard a lot from the neighborhoods over the years about the fact that it used to be a bus service out in the South End area. Do we have enough bus service to the schools? Do we have enough bus service to the community college? There's that specific route for the TriMet service line, which sticks pretty close to Molalla Avenue as it comes up into town. So is there better cross-street service across town and or across our district service? So that's another grant that's out there that we received, and Clackamas County has actually acquired some smaller buses already that would serve our area, and we're actually soliciting proposals and reviewing those proposals to look at how that service could be provided, whether it's Clackamas County. I don't think it's going to be Oregon City, but that would be one consideration, or if there's a private vendor that's actually serving that or providing that service. Kind of like if you've been to Forest Grove, they've got the Grove Link service. So that's the kind of service it would be. It would be smaller buses. It would have specific routes, but it wouldn't necessarily be fixed route kind of service. It could go off route based on phone calls and those kind of things. That's what we're hoping for anyway. So that's going to be a pretty big deal for the city, I think. It's going to be a lot more opportunity to get folks to and from the community college, for instance, that they have lots of folks that live in Oregon City but drive there, and they'd rather they commute. So another good project. Let's see. Other thing, I've been to several neighborhoods, or we have been to several neighborhoods, so lots of good hot topics there. So I've been to Park Place and Kenema, McLaughlin, Gaffney Lane, and Caulfield within probably their last few meetings. So if we haven't been to your meeting and you want us there, let us know. We're happy to show up for that. And then let's see, can you move forward? I just really wanted to mention that some of that funding that I talked about with the regional flexible funds, this is another funding pot that's being considered right now by your Metro government. So in November, there's likely to be, or there is going to be an election in November, and Metro's considering a bond measure that would be another ask for funding for transportation improvements. And so this map here's kind of, the graphic suggests some of their values and desired outcomes. So feel free to take a look at that. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but McLaughlin Boulevard is one of the corridors. And if you can scroll up, Christina, for me real quick, I'll just quickly cover.
Scroll this way.
Yeah, right there. So these are the projects along the McLaughlin Boulevard. So there is a fair amount of funding that would be allocated to Oregon City, and definitely more allocated to Clackamas County as well. So the three projects that I think touch Oregon City are the Trolley Trail Bridge. That's the old bridge that used to be at that location. It was kind of an extension of the Portland streetcar. So there used to be a streetcar that came down Main Street and went through the Cove area on down Portland, and I think it went all the way to Portland. And so that bridge, if you remember, there was a section, one end of it kind of collapsed or there was a lot of erosion in the river around the abutment to that. And so the railroad owned it, and the decision was made to remove that bridge. And this is a project that would look at replacing that bridge with a pedestrian pathway, another pedestrian crossing right there. And then the I-205 ramps, improvements to the ramps that would also include a new left turn lane off of 99E onto I-205. So that's basically a capacity improving project for drivers. And then the Willamette Falls Bike Ped. So I just mentioned the grant funding that we got for that project that they're listing in this Metro bond measure would fund construction of the project. So the $673,000 that we got is more for a design and concept design. So anyway, those are the three projects for that. And then the only other things I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about was a couple of projects that are coming up that are going to affect you if you use 205. There's the paving improvement projects. Those are going to start in May, and they go from really the Abernathy Bridge out to 224. So just know most of that's probably going to be nighttime work, but it's pretty similar to what they've done in the other sections of 205. And I don't think they're planning anything special there other than milling and paving. So it's just really the inconvenience of having to deal with construction traffic. But there's some information in this brochure that will answer more, and there's definitely good contact information if you need even more information for that. And then the other item was the I-205 widening and seismic improvements. That project continues. ODOT got full funding for the full design of the Abernathy Bridge widening project, and that is so that's moving forward. We're working with ODOT to help review our side of that project for sure. But the first phase, if you scroll down just a little bit more, I want to say, so the first phase was to install some sign bridges. So those kind of informational signs that tell you how long it takes to get to a particular area, or if the road's icy, or whatever kind of message that they want to share with you. So you probably noticed them. They've been creating quite a mess over kind of by the 213, 205 interchange. That's pretty muddy right there. And then if you're on the Westland side, it's not as muddy because it's bedrock over there, but they've been hammering on rock up there by the viewpoint. I noticed that's been going on for quite some time. So those are foundations for these sign bridges. And at some point, they're going to have to close 205 at night to actually put those sign bridges in place. And so, interesting project, kind of project that will have benefits for, I think anybody that uses 205. And, yeah. So that's what I was going to cover. Bob, I'm probably way over what you wanted.
Pretty much.
28 minutes, sorry. So no time for questions.
I would since we do have an awful lot to cover tonight, I would like to limit the questions to 4 questions. So
or none.
Okay, I have asked, Amy, I'm
Just
sorry.
real quick, you said that full funding for 205 widening the Abernathy Bridge, is there a timeline?
Good, thank you for clarifying that. Full funding for the design.
Oh, design.
Design,
okay.
yeah. No, there's not full funding for the construction yet.
Darn it, okay.
But
Thank you.
if you're in the know and listening much, the discussion about congestion pricing, tolling, whatever you want to call it, is starting to get started. So look for more information on that.
I have asked John in his presentations to provide us written documents over what he covers as much as possible, so that we're not so likely, because we all have such busy lives, we're not so likely to forget what he presented. It also gives us something physically to copy if we wish, to pass on to our neighborhoods, which we're here to do. So hopefully that'll make it a little easier for you to get what John presents to us. And I'll be doing that with other presenters also. Steve?
One question on what's the status of First Street?
First Street is moving right along. Of course, we've hired the owner's rep, the architect, and the CMGC contractor. We're pretty hot in the design phase right now. So our intent is to submit the land use package. So even though we're progressing under something that looks a little bit more like a remodel, it's a pretty significant remodel, and our parking needs there are likely to trigger, well, parking and our whole frontage. The whole front of that building is going to look quite different than what it does today. And so with that, we're needing to make the frontage improvements that are part of the city's code with regard to what frontage of buildings look like. So we're planning to go through land use fairly soon here. We're working through some of the pricing. We're having to value engineer some of the things that we'd like to have versus what we can afford to have. So we're working through that. But yeah, it's moving along. It'll likely be the front warehouse, significant remodel again. So I don't know if you remember what that looks like, but there's a couple of single-story kind of knobs on the front end of that. Those are going to come off. We're going to kind of open that front end up. We called it the clean T, because if you look at the building, it's kind of a T-shaped building from the elevation. And 2 stories, engineering, GIS, IT, ops, parks ops, they'll all be in that building. And so really the biggest challenge on that side is trying to fit both employee parking and daily driver parking. That's the challenge. But yeah, it's moving along, making good progress.
Thank you, John.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for getting me in early too, Bob.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, now we come to citizen comments. Sir, did you want to make any comments tonight? Okay, so we don't have any citizen comments. The next item is item 5, old business. And item 5A is our amendments to the Oregon City Municipal Code regarding Citizen Involvement Committee. You should have received 2 amendments. One is the amendments presented at the last CIC meeting. And then the second is the amendment suggested by City Manager Tony Conkle. Both versions were included as attachments to the agenda.
And I just printed off the Tony Conkle because I think it encompasses both, rather than there's a lot of paper, so I was trying to limit it. So what you have in front of you was comments from our city manager and including the original comments.
Yeah.
How do we know which is which?
You can tell because the comments from the city manager in a darker underline.
I got it.
It's in bold. You can see the difference.
So could you repeat that? The bold
The
is?
comments from our city manager are in dark
bold.
red bold,
Okay.
or just red bold, and the comments from the committee are just in red underlined.
Yeah, there is one correction in item 2.30.030F. There's a misspelling there. When I put this together, I misspelled. I put member instead of member. I'm sure I must have something else on my mind at the time, but what can I say? So I'd like to go over the differences in the two versions, and then as we finish up each version, I would like to have a vote on which version we, as this committee, prefer, either the original version that I presented or the changed version which Tony Conkle and staff wish to make the changes to. And I'll be presenting this to the City Commission, I think next month. Yeah, it is next month. I think it's at a work session. So we need to get through these. Okay. 2.30.030 membership. Item B in the staff version eliminates the wording, quote, failure of the mayor to appoint such selected members shall be supported by valid reasons. The reasoning given for this change is the authority of the mayor to appoint is at his or her discretion, and there are no criteria. Therefore, it's difficult to require justification. But the original intent on this was to give the neighborhood associations a reason the mayor did not appoint their selected representative, merely a courtesy. And so I'll just open that up for discussion. Okay, Rita.
Well, I just feel like that we make a selection and it's our choice, and then if the mayor thinks we haven't made a good choice, we need to know why. Isn't that what our original intention was?
That's what the original intent, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Bob, maybe there's a way we can just word it that that we request that the mayor let us know why. You know, not saying he has to valid reason, you know, not telling him what he has to tell us, but just asking that he or she, depending on who the mayor is, reports.
Just reveal why.
Or inform the neighborhood what
Yeah.
the problem was, just information, just, you know, what
Why
the
just
reason
not
was.
take out valid and put it with a written reason, written explanation? Supported by valid reason, supported by written explanation.
Well, as the original one that was presented, failure of the mayor to appoint such selected members shall be supported by valid reasons. How should we change that wording?
I don't think you can use the word supported because we're just asking for a courtesy report.
And I just think a written explanation says it all. Should.
Go ahead, Carl.
Wouldn't be the reason if he actually had a problem with it be a conflict of interest of some sort concerning possibly the city, or would there be a reason other than that he would, I mean,
The only reason that I've heard is that if a person had a lawsuit against the city, he would not appoint them. That's the only reason I've heard given that it would happen.
If he gave us that reason, we would know what.
Well, and if he gave
we
that
would know.
reason, it's acceptable.
Yeah.
Just be a courtesy, as far as I'm concerned, to the people that voted somebody in to be their representative.
otherwise it's not a democratic process, so,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay, well, I guess we'll bring it to a vote. I'm gonna, I think this is permissible if I don't require a motion and a second for each of these. Does anybody know any reason why I shouldn't just bring it up for a vote for each of these items.
No, that should be fine.
Should we really word what we want to say? Or, you know, if we aren't going to leave what's in it, but we do want to know, then maybe we should.
Yes, we do. We should come up with that tonight. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that what I wrote down was just that neighborhood association or the CIC would be informed as to why the decision was made.
So it'd be, the CIC would be informed of reasons for a non-appointment, or?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, with that change, then I would like to ask which members would like to approve the original amendments of that section with the rewording, the failure of the mayor to appoint such selected members. No, the mayor shall inform the CIC
of the reason for
reasons for a non-appointment.
Right.
Shouldn't that go to the community associations? Not
The
to us.
neighborhood association?
Because the neighborhood association has to come up with another person. He should inform the neighborhood association.
Yeah, not us.
Not
Correct.
us.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that was
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's much better.
Yeah.
Oh, because it is individual neighborhoods, yeah.
I think
Okay,
it
so
should
that
come
would
back
be
to
a
the,
change to the original.
We got our
so-
here.
it should also come back to the CIC
Yeah.
because other neighborhoods could be affected. So I would propose, if the mayor deems the proposed member to not be suitable, the reason for such denial shall be communicated to the neighborhood and the CIC in writing.
That makes,
I like it.
okay, that sounds good.
Simple, yeah, simple and short.
Okay, all in favor of that wording,
Aye.
please raise your hand. If you're a voting member only. And which-
Am I gonna write this down?
Yeah,
I am? Okay.
yeah. I want a record.
You may count. We have 2, 4, 5,
We got trigger happy.
6.
6, excuse me.
Okay, those in favor of the staff version of that particular section, please raise your hand. Now, if I'm being biased about this, I want somebody to tell me, because I don't want to have this come back in my face and say, Bob, you controlled this whole thing. I'm serious about that, too.
Oh, we'll tell you, Bob.
Yeah.
Since when have we kept our mouth shut on that?
Take you on back. Okay, item C in the staff version, we're still in 2.3 or 0.030 membership. Item C in the staff version eliminates the wording following appointment by the mayor, but no earlier than January 1st, and adds the wording, if an appointed CIC member resigns, a replacement may be selected by the neighborhood association and appointed by the mayor for the remainder of the term.
So that whole part was,
That
Came from
the
city staff?
part following appointment by the mayor, but no earlier than January 1st, was eliminated. And the rest, and it remained as it was originally.
Makes more sense.
Now, the staff reasoning was to try to keep all the appointments of all the boards and commissions on the same timeline. I was trying to avoid the mayor appointing somebody
After
the mayor
January.
appointing somebody that was no longer on the CIC. Anyway, my research found that all the other boards and committees have terms ending on December 31st, so their reasoning makes sense.
One of the things that, since January 1st is holiday, why not say by the first Monday of January? Because that would be when we would meet. The first scheduled Monday of January, because the first might be a Monday.
Well, I think all the boards and commissions run into that. It's just easier to just say the first.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that puts the pressure on us to get the appointments to the mayor beforehand, so potentially he could do the accepting in December and not have to wait until January. So
Okay.
that's on us.
So I'll be consistent with this. How many agree with the first version? How many agree with the version that I just read with the changes we made? Voters?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so that's passed. So we'll use Mr. Conkle's changed version of that, which certainly makes sense. We're still in the same area. Item D. The staff version eliminates the wording, quote, adjacent to the neighborhood which they represent, unquote, and adds the wording, if a member is located within the urban growth boundary, but not within a designated neighborhood association, they may represent the nearest adjacent neighborhood association, unquote. To me, both of those end up meaning the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'll open that up for discussion.
Basically, are we saying they need to be within the urban growth boundary?
Yeah.
And is the current neighborhood association maps, does that include all of the urban growth boundary as it currently is? So it seems to me.
No, that's why it uses the word adjacent to.
Just a technicality, there's think of it as like the comprehensive plan map for neighborhood associations, which goes out, but you're not, I mean, until you're in the city, you're not really in the neighborhood association, but we know which neighborhood association you'll be in.
But we let most of the neighborhood association bylaws allow for people to be a member if they live within the urban growth boundary.
And this wouldn't prevent that from being.
This is for CIC membership.
Because it actually states here if they're in that urban growth boundary.
Oh, yeah. So this is CIC, so we do want them to be a citizen of Oregon City.
Okay, yeah, that does present a.
So if that's the case, then it should read, the member shall reside within the neighborhood association boundaries which they represent, period.
Well, the original wording in this says the member shall reside, we took out work, own property, own a business, shall reside within the neighborhood association boundaries which they represent, or the land outside the city limits but inside the urban growth boundary. designated to be adjacent to the neighborhood association.
Right, but I think, like Rachel was pointing out, with the CIC, I think we want them to be a citizen of Oregon City. I thought that was our intent, and maybe we missed that, unless you see otherwise.
Then that would eliminate
Urban growth.
anything, any person outside the city
in
limits, but
unincorporated.
within the urban growth boundary.
Right.
As
Yeah,
would prevent them from being a member of the CIC.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
a member of
yeah.
the neighborhood.
They could be in the neighborhood, but
okay, so let's see here.
That's D.
So that would eliminate Mr. Conkle's wording in its entirety. And then going back to the original item D, states the members shall reside within the neighborhood association boundaries which they represent,
Period.
Period.
period. And that's it then.
Yep.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay, everybody in favor of the original version stating the members shall reside within the neighborhood association boundaries which they represent, period.
Yes.
Everybody in favor of that? I mean, anybody? Looks like that passes, so we'll use that version of that. Okay. Section 2.30.040, officers and staffing. Item B. The original version, item B, we added the wording will include. You see it in bold there, a city liaison. And in Mr. Conkle's version, the staff version, it eliminates the wording will include and keeps it as it originally was. I didn't receive any particular communications about the why-fors or wherefores of this change, so I'll open it up for discussion.
Doesn't that also go down where B2, where the change crossed off consistent with the city charter, the city manager, the city commission, and just says consistent with the city charter, the city manager shall.
That's a separate issue. That item
But don't they go hand in hand?
B2 will be a separate from this one that we're discussing right now. Okay, everybody that's in favor of the original version, which states I lost my position.
Will include a city liaison.
Item B, yeah. Staffing of the CIC may include a city commissioner liaison and will include a city liaison. Everybody in favor of that version, raise your hand. Everybody in favor of the city staff version, raise your hand. Okay. Item B. Mr. Conkle's version eliminates the wording, the city commission shall retain its discretion to suspend staffing when reasonable circumstances warrant. and retains the wording which gives the city manager the ability to suspend staffing in support of the CIC.
Where are you?
Item B2.
Bob, didn't you do some research on that you were going to clarify for us?
Yes, and the version that we presented last week is not in opposition of any of the city charter. Because if you look at the reading of the wording that we present is, what was meant in that version was to eliminate the ability of the city manager to eliminate the position. Now keep this in mind, eliminates the position of the city liaison person who is in support of the CIC. It wasn't meant to eliminate his ability to assign a particular staff person to that position. So we're not eliminating the city manager's ability to hire or fire or assign staff to any position he wants to. We're just trying to assure that that one particular person cannot eliminate that position. It reverts to a group of people who, in fact, we wish to be the city commission, would be the people that would eliminate that position. I'm trying to emphasize the difference in the meaning there. We're not trying to eliminate the city manager's ability to hire or fire or assign any of his staff to any position he wants to. But we are trying to retain that position in support of the CIC, and elimination would be up to the city commission.
Is the city commission the body that has jurisdiction over the CIC?
Yes, because we're a instrumentality of the city now, and the city commission are the only ones that can change the code. So it would be ultimately up to the city commission to make the decision on this particular issue. I know it's sticky.
So can you read the original?
The original one.
Wording. Starting with the CIC liaison will be a non-voting member of the CIC, and then
okay. Item B2 in its entirety reads, city liaison or his or her designee. The planning division and the city manager's office or their designee shall be responsible for keeping an accurate and legally sufficient record of all proceedings and shall record the minutes and submit them to the CIC for approval. In addition, the CIC liaison shall post agendas, maintain attendance records, maintain a database of CIC members, and track the CIC budget. The city liaison will be a non-voting member of the CIC, and then the original one before our changes were consistent with the city charter. The city manager shall retain his/her discretion to suspend staffing when reasonable circumstances warrant. So in the existing code, the city manager has the ability to suspend staffing when reasonable circumstances warrant. What the committee that put this together was trying to do was eliminate the possibility of one person deciding what really would boil down to the fate of the CIC. Because without a city liaison person, how can the CIC operate?
So from the committee, what does that sentence read?
What's that?
What's the proposed sentence that came out of our committee?
it deleted consistent with the city charter, the city manager. Deleted that, and in its replacement says, the city commission shall retain its discretion to suspend staffing when reasonable circumstances warrant.
Okay. Let's vote.
Discussion?
I can tell you this, the city commission is not gonna go for that. The city commission does not have authority to tell the city manager what staff he should put here or there. The only two positions that we have authority over are the city manager and the municipal judge. There's the only two positions that we can hire and fire and have complete direction over. Otherwise, all of the other operations and stuff, I mean, we clearly make recommendations, and if there was an issue, obviously, we could, you know, he brings lots of stuff, but when it comes down to the brass tacks of the city commission suspending staff participation, won't happen.
But that's not what we're trying to accomplish.
Well, that's what it reads. That's the way it reads. So
I think, but
we need to work
in
on
all
the
the
language.
boards and committees, doesn't it say that there is a staff position?
I would think so.
I mean,
So
I
we
think
should
that's
look
all
at
we're
the-
trying to say,
Yeah.
is that there is a staff. So maybe we just leave that alone.
I don't think that provision is in any other board or committee that allows the city manager to eliminate the position. And again, what we're trying to do is say, we're not eliminating the city manager's ability to place a person in that position. What we're trying to do is not allow the city manager to eliminate that position itself.
So Bob,
It's not changing who he puts in there.
we voted to up in B to say, and will include a city liaison. So if we just
Yeah.
completely remove this last part and just end it at the city liaison will be a non-voting member of the CIC, period, and eliminate that whole other part, it says that there is a position. So I think that would be cleaner. And if the topic.
So eliminate
Who says what, because it's just, we
So
said there's
eliminate
gonna
the
be one.
original consistent with the city charter, the city manager
Yeah, just
shall
eliminate
retain
all of
his
that.
discretion to suspend staffing. So we'd eliminate that line altogether.
All of that.
Yeah, I just think that would be cleaner. I mean, we said will and.
Simpler.
Well, we're not trying to cause a conflict, either, the city manager.
Right.
We're not trying to conflict, we're just trying to make sure that we have representation.
Yeah, so if we say will
We
include,
don't have a war.
it seems, does that seem like it would fly, Rachel? If we just left it at that?
Well, if you can get past the will include, probably yes.
But I think
Because
all
the
of
other
them-
section is getting into authority, of who has authority. to
Right, but if we just say it will
assign staff.
include, which I think it
Right.
says for the other,
Yeah,
okay.
that sounds like a pretty good solution to me. Well, let's try that one for a vote then.
So let's say what it is again.
Okay.
Will include is what we're voting
But
for?
we already went
See.
for that.
The city liaison shall post agendas, maintain attendance records, maintain a database of CIC members, and track the CIC budget. The city liaison will be a non-voting member of the CIC. What we're eliminating is the wording
Anything after
following
that.
this sentence. Consistent with the city charter, the city manager shall retain his or her discretion to suspend staffing.
We're just eliminating everything after the word
Yeah,
non-voting
CIC,
member of the
right.
CIC.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be.
Any, well, let's take a vote then. And everybody in favor of that section with the changes we just spoke of? Okay, that passes. Oh my, I knew that one was gonna be a tough one. How do I get myself into these things? Section 2.30.070, conflict of interest. the staff version eliminates the wording city liaison, city commission liaison, or city staff. Now, the reasoning was given to me that the positions are not, quote, they're not decision makers on the CIC, they present information. Well, just because they can't vote doesn't eliminate the possibility of providing biased information in their best interest. I think it's in the, protection for anybody taking part in the meeting. You don't have to be a voting member to put forth some information that would be helpful to you financially or whatever else. See.
So I believe that all the other positions are covered by their own rules based on the position that they currently have. City Commission already has that. So, and the staff, well, they're governed by the labor laws, and their position's on the line if they get out of line.
I won't get out of line.
You're probably, she's better off just keep she's walking the line. Commissioner, what do you think about that?
I mean, it's true. I mean, Steve is correct. I mean,
well, then we wouldn't really need that wording necessarily.
I mean, I think Tony's comments was that we're not voting members. So therefore, I mean, I generally try to stay silent. I think both of us probably try to stay pretty silent the majority of the time and let you guys do your thing.
But you're not always the ones.
True. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I think we're looking for forever. True. Not forever, but ongoing.
But your input's important when something's going on, like we might be going over the line to something,
Yeah.
We still need the insight of, you're going too far, that isn't really what's working. Or,
I mean,
we
generally,
have
if there's any city business, we shouldn't be having any, I mean, I'm not supposed to have any conflict of interest, period, so.
And for staffing issues, I would have Tony refer to HR because I couldn't comment on that.
Yeah.
And
So-
we don't
so
have
Steve's
decision-making power anyway.
You have no decision-making power, yeah.
That's right.
We're already held to conflict of interest, so, yeah. So I think it was just the edit was probably just to make it clean of, we're already held.
Keep it to the
truthfully,
CAC.
all right, there's no harm in keeping it in there. I mean, if you really want it. But,
So shall we go along with the staff's recommendation to eliminate that?
Might as well.
yeah.
Yes.
A vote, please, for that? Okay. Let's see here. Well, that's it as far as Mr. Conko's changes. We've gone through all those. Does anybody have any other statements about these code changes?
Thank you, Bob.
I'll be here's the note I was looking for. I'll be presenting these amendments and the CIC bylaws at the City Commission work session on April 7th. Now we come to item 5B, staff liaison, our famous Christina.
All right. I think we've gotten all the active or very active neighbor associations appointed, so thank you. Rivercrest, Hillendale, Two Rivers, we're still waiting, so I know those 3 neighbor associations are still active or semi-active, so please contact those neighborhood contacts of yours for those 3 neighbor associations and get them to
I have a
move forward to
question
appoint.
about Hillendale. Mm-hmm. What is the definition of active?
I don't know.
Because they don't have, if a neighborhood doesn't have a board and they're just meeting with another neighborhood in the past, that's been an inactive neighborhood and has been just invited to, those members have been invited to attend another neighborhood. My concern is if there's not a board and there's just a land use person, how are they having any kind of an official meeting, because their steering committee meeting, if there's no board or.
Like, how does it meet the requirement of
Yeah.
the land use review?
Yeah.
You know, we've generally, because neighborhoods are separate entities, we've been taking our direction from neighborhoods when they tell us they're inactive. So.
But if you have one person or two
Yeah.
people telling you they're active, but that's really not, I mean, I don't know, maybe they voted on it. I haven't seen anything. All I've heard was from Mr. Gifford that he was willing to still be the land use chair. But if that's the only thing that's active, it doesn't seem like that would meet the need of goal one. And that any land use in that area should come to the CIC, and that should be inactivated. But that would be something for probably Bob to follow up on.
Yeah, I would encourage you to reach out to Hellendale.
Well, I'm gonna reach out to all the inactive neighborhood associations.
Because I think they have to
Officially,
have a board.
unofficially inactive, you know, like Rivercrest hasn't had a representative at the CIC for over a
No,
year.
but they do have an active board.
But
And that's
they
the
do,
difference.
and they told me that they're gonna be at their next meeting, which I will attend, trying to get people to be representatives to the CIC. And then I've been in contact with some of the former members of the various neighborhood associations. One of them moved to Canby, can't help us anymore. One of us moved to Klamath Falls, she can't help us anymore. But anyway, I'm trying to contact some of these people, and I'll be going to their meetings if they're having them, trying to get these neighborhoods activated again.
So maybe at our next meeting, you could give us an update.
Yeah, I'll do that, yeah.
Because I
sure.
really think that we need to, keeping in mind that it's majorly about land use, we need to make sure we're hitting those marks.
Yeah.
And if they don't have you can't
Well,
really have a neighborhood
I've got
without a chair.
one idea I'll bring up when we get to our leftover funding area here that was brought to me to another person who is an officer of one of the inactive organizations.
So just a couple additional, the census flyer and comprehensive plan presentation from last month were attached. And I will send out an email this week, both John's PDF he gave me of what you have hard copy for, as well as Greg's PowerPoint presentation. And then as always, I keep a link on the liaison report about how to get to development applications on our website, as well as to sign up. So always keep reminding your neighbor association contacts that they can sign up for the land use weekly email for any new land use applications that come in. You'll get a push email on Sundays, I think, when we have it. So encourage people. That's a great way to find out what's happening in your neighborhood and citywide.
Yeah, that gives you a huge amount of information on all these applications, it really does.
So Christina, for as far as the website, which is probably Kelsey's, but Rivercrest and Hellendale, we need to remove the CIC names.
Okay.
Because they're still listed on here.
Is that all you had, Christina?
That's all I have.
Thank you. Item 6 will now discuss new business, and 6A is the proposed CIC bylaws. I hope you've all had an opportunity to go over them. They're quite extensive. And I'll open them up for discussion in regard to the CIC bylaws. Steve?
So I think we need to add a land use chair as one of the officers of the CIC. What Amy brought up with inactive neighborhoods, having the land use issues come to the CIC, we need to have a point. We could have it as the chair. I'd prefer to have it spread out a little bit more. We used to have a land use chair for CIC because there was a CIC area within the city. So
And there used to be a CIC land use committee.
Yeah. Well, a land use committee, and then they would elect their own chair.
Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah. Is everybody okay with adding
What
that?
would that do? I mean, what do you propose that be? Would that look like?
Looks like just any of the neighborhoods have the
Well,
same
we've never
type
had
of-
one in ours, so I'm curious what that would look like.
They would review land use applications in the neighborhood and make the recommendation. And if there's any issues, they would convey them back to the city.
Doesn't each neighborhood do that, though? Have their own-
Each neighborhood does that,
But for
but
the
now we
inactive.
have inactive neighborhoods that the CIC is going to be responsible
For making the.
for making that determination. So I would propose that we do something similar to any of the neighborhoods that have a land use committee, chair, whatever.
Okay. Carla?
If a neighborhood's inactive and we had someone in that type of position, it would seem to me that we try to still reach out to members of those neighborhoods as much as possible, you know, the residents there, like maybe someone being able to get on Nextdoor at least and reach out to people that maybe at least on Nextdoor that could see it, somehow get to them with it being affordable, free, just so that they have an opportunity to come and speak up. That's just my opinion.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Okay. John?
One of my thoughts on that also is that having somebody here, we have people walking in here for a certain neighborhood, we've had here, to get okay to do something, and it's, what do we know about the neighborhood? But we don't know what's really going on in that neighborhood, so, yeah, go ahead and do what you're gonna do, but we're approving something, telling people, go ahead and do something that we don't really know if the neighborhood was happening. So we had a person on CIC that, when this got presented to us, a picture, what the whole picture was, we could make a better evaluation for the city, because it's gonna affect everybody eventually, any of these things. So having a person, I think, to come and validate, this is what I've seen, this is the information I have in this neighborhood, I think we would have a better piece of knowledge before we made a vote until someone go do something and we don't know what's happening.
Yeah. Makes sense
See
to me.
something coming up in your future, Steve. Any other comments about the,
I have a difficulty with that because you're asking a member here to then become informed about other neighborhoods and their land
But
use.
not make any decision, just gather the information, because when a developer comes, they still have to come here to this body, and we still, as this body, vote to say if we want to support it or not. Most of the time when a developer comes, at least in our neighborhood, a lot of times there's no vote. I mean, we vote, but there's no for or against. It's just everybody gives their ideas and the comments, and thank you for coming, you've met your requirement. We can still vote. I think the key would just is to take it one step farther and reach out to that neighborhood that is, so that, because like I get notices all the time, and you probably all do, and I look at what neighborhood it is, and oh, that's not my neighborhood, I don't need to go too deep into it. But if you had a liaison, that person, if it was for an inactive, would just read up a little bit more about it. If there was a developer that needed to come, then that would be that step. Otherwise, if it was just a matter of it's a type 2 decision, they're just putting it out there, the land use person could do some research, come here and still get the input, because the land use person can't speak for the CIC without the vote of the CIC. So you'd still have to bring it here, but it would just be that person doing a little more homework, right?
Bob? Just real quickly, I'm looking under our chapter 1750, which is our land use administration chapter. And we say if the neighborhood association is not currently recognized by the city, inactive, or does not exist, the applicant shall request a meeting with the citizen involvement committee. So as long as whatever the bylaws say is consistent with this, the 1750.
Yeah.
So I still think they still probably have to go to the meeting and still present.
Right, this is
the way
the
it's
second,
written. Okay.
this is just another layer of,
oh, 17.50,
Oh, sorry, I'll give you the subsections. It's 1750. Oh, 1750-055 Neighborhood Association, it's 055D. 1750-055D.
Got it, okay. Carl?
And these are ideal circumstances. A lot of times, several times recently with Barclay Hills, we had a land use issue where they contacted me already when the postcard was sent out. And then, you know, we could offer them the next meeting after, but then they're not going to meet their deadline. And the hard thing is time. You know, like, do you have enough time to be able to research it? If you have the, contractor coming or they have a deadline, it's like, it's just, you know, it's like, I guess, you know, I'm even hearing there may be something in Barclay Hills that's needing to be built right now, and we don't know anything about it. And we have, like, you know, so it would be nice if we had at least maybe some time, if possible, a preparation, like, you know, we need every month here that we know before 30 days so that we can prepare for it, especially if we have a liaison who's having to do research. So I don't know if that's possible, but...
What I do in my neighborhood is if they contact me and the postcards have already gone out, then we don't let them come to that next meeting, because otherwise people aren't prepared and they don't know. In the code, it offers them a chance. If they don't want to wait 2 more months, they can hold their own meeting.
Okay.
And so then we work with them, and then postcards can go out, and we can they only have to send it to a limited amount of people, but we send it out to our email list, which hits even more. And we've done that a couple times, but most of the time they're willing to wait because they don't want that expense.
Right. Well, we had a developer, I don't know, it was a developer, builder, whoever. They wanted to give a presentation tonight, and I emailed them back stating, you know, we really had a really full agenda. Could you wait until April? And they were perfectly fine with that. They just emailed me back, we'll take the first opportunity we can get our hands on.
Because it doesn't do any service.
I know, but that 30-day rule is kind of tough sometimes to follow, but it's in the code, I think. Mm-hmm. So you've got to try to accommodate as best you can.
Well, we meet every 2 months, but the opportunity here is we have meet every 30 days. So if we have liaisons, so they have time to prepare and. Yeah.
That's a tough one. I've never had a developer call their own meeting in Park Place ever. But that's
we had it, and it wasn't ideal.
We had special meetings in Park Place.
Yeah, I think this too. There's always times that if it's that important, they can call a special meeting about the issue. And there's, you know, the money, the budgets, we always ask, and everyone has an email list. So I think special meetings would work rather than having a CIC.
Yeah, you could call a special meeting to your steering committee. They could be spokesman.
Yeah,
I don't know. Here, we need 30.
We did that last month. It was supposed to be our steering committee meeting, but we got some plans for development in our neighborhood that I'll bring up when we get to round table.
Okay, so, you know, it's workable. I think it's workable. Okay, any other issues about the land use, the bylaws proposition?
And section, on the first page, down at the bottom, under city liaison, letter A, it says the city liaison maintains a duplicate copy of the CIC minutes for city records. That we don't need anymore, right? Because there just is a copy of minutes, period.
Yeah, I asked Tony about that in my meeting before this, because I asked him, I was like, that's odd language. He thought that was maybe a carryover from older times.
Yeah, it was.
Officially, the city liaison, it should, to match the code amendments that we just went through, it should say the city liaison or his or her designee, which essentially we could say is the city recorder, maintains the official version of the CIC minutes for city records, because we only have one official record.
Yeah.
And that's maintained by the city recorder.
So it should be, just eliminate the word duplicate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maintains the minutes, maintains the CIC minutes for city records.
If you leave it liaison, it has to be or his or her designee.
Yeah.
Because
Word it the same way you worded it in the code.
it's the same way you have it in the code under officers and staffing. Yeah, I actually was gonna say, there's several pieces in the bylaws that don't align with the code that we just went through, so it just needs to be a true up so that what you guys say
we
here.
wanted to keep, within compliance with the code. Would it be too much to ask for you to send me what you found?
Sure, I could. So like the boundaries and membership, for example, on the second page under Article 3, you guys made a decision tonight that the members should follow neighborhood association boundaries. Well, this whole section kind of has language about what was previously in there, about stuff within the urban growth
And
boundary and all
also
that, so
Yeah.
that all needs to be reflected.
And the mayor, it also talks about that we need to change that under section 2B.
Right.
Yeah.
To match what we just said.
There's kind of throughout, there's.
Yeah, right.
There's,
Yeah, okay.
Just to align the two.
Yeah. Well, when our little subcommittee first met, one of our main objectives was we used the old bylaws as a template to kind of go by, but then we also tried to emphasize the fact that we had to make some changes in those bylaws to comply with the city code that didn't even exist back then. So, and with something this extensive, it's kind of hard to catch them all, so.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's help is really needed.
And maybe if we could all read them and submit to you, we can bring it.
If you would, please do that, so
Cleaner
that
copies
I'll
for
have
April.
time to make these changes before the April 7th, meeting.
Do we get electronically?
Yeah.
Add that to Christine's list to send out.
Oh, Word version?
Yeah.
Is that what you want? Okay.
That's okay with Bob.
All right, let's see, where are we now?
Funding.
Item 6B, now we need to decide what to do with the projected CIC leftover funds.
Not enough to go to Mexico, right?
Depends how many.
Only the immediate past chair.
Is it safe to travel there?
She's on her way already.
My husband was in a hotel last week with Corona in Hawaii. Yeah, it was great in the same hotel building.
Well, I see three possibilities myself. Use it for the neighborhood associations to show a deficit.
Yeah.
Use it to try to revitalize inactive neighborhood associations, which I told you a little earlier I would readdress this particular issue. And then the third, move it to the next fiscal year, but I don't know if that's possible. Do they allow us to do that?
Yeah, you can
that's way
we can
cool.
request to carry forward.
Can we include it?
Okay. Well, my idea that was given to me by an officer of an inactive association to revitalize inactive neighborhood associations is to get mailings out and maybe organize a meeting. And, you look at the map of the neighborhood associations, there's 4 of those neighborhood associations all adjacent to each other. They're inactive. It's a huge, huge area just by itself. So if we could use some of those unused funds to put together some meetings for those inactive neighborhoods, that would be the cost of the mailings.
And the money is already there for those inactive ones.
Yeah.
But now,
But are we authorized to spend their money?
Oh, yeah.
Might be the question.
If they're inactive,
Even though they're inactive.
to vote, so.
I think we would.
First question I think we have to address is those of us that are going to be hit the deficit and how much money that's going to take up. And then we can see how much is left.
Christina, I'm going to let you handle that, explain what you explained to me earlier,
So-
which I totally
Yeah,
discombobulated on.
Kelsey McNall, who runs the postcards through the city and reviews them, put together the Excel spreadsheet you have. And what you see in red is her guess based on your past actions, what she thinks your neighborhood's going to be using by the end of the fiscal year. So I guess the first question is, did Kelsey guess correctly? And if not, what's the difference?
I didn't get a copy of that. Do we have extras?
Is there extra ones over there?
Steve's sharing with me.
Okay. So A, did Kelsey guess correctly in the red at the bottom for her expectations of how many postcards you'll send out before June 30th? And then you'll see the top right is the $26,000. That's the budgeted amount. And the bottom right is less the money spent to date and the projected money in red. So there's about 6,000, a little less than 6,000, 5,000 and change left. So there is some extra money, and that's also with assuming the postcards that you have projected.
Isn't there usually a column that says miscellaneous or something that's $5,000 on all of the other spreadsheets that we've gotten?
So I wasn't able to connect with Kelsey, and I had that same question, and I can get back to the group on that. I don't have that answer.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
I seem to remember that, yeah.
Appear to be allocated correctly. I mean, Kenema, we're a small neighborhood. We have the same regular meetings all the time. It doesn't seem like we should be out of money if we have a special meeting, yeah. But it does seem like it covers our needs, and I'm
Well,
wondering.
postage has gone up, and we've probably got more. Have you always had the same amount of meetings per year?
Isn't it possible to have more members?
I doubt it. I mean, we're a very small neighborhood.
A bigger
to begin with, and it wouldn't seem like if we've got 10.
Well, it's based per person per household
Perhaps
anyway.
we have
so.
10 new households, which I don't really think we do.
Well, I get a bigger number in the mailing.
Well, I think that's something that we're going to have to bring up with the city commission at the next budget go round, because
and we
if we're always going to be running out of money.
And we use a small postcard.
Me too.
Okay, maybe some of you used to have.
Me too.
Use a small.
Well, the thing is, with the city commission, I've heard them state that in the past, we haven't used all our funds.
Yeah, we need to use it.
Right, but if we had if all the neighborhoods were active, we would go over budget.
Oh. We would certainly run out of money, yeah.
Maybe we need to evaluate because we're going to try and get those inactive neighborhoods active again.
Well, I propose that we vote to let people use the money that they need to finish out the year according to these projections, and follow with Bob's recommendation that we spend some of that $6,000 difference trying to activate. That would be my vote.
Before we ask for a motion, Janice, you had?
Yeah, I was wondering if we might get some money to cover our deficit for our. And
I think that would be included in.
When was the last time we evaluated how it's being done?
We've never had
you
input.
mean how the postcards are put out, or what?
You know the process?
I've read the process. It looks very unwieldy.
They take it to a printer, the printer prints it, he gives it to somebody else that also gets more money, and he takes it to Portland. Now, there's no reason for that. There's no reason for that. Does the city have a bulk permit imprint? If they have a bulk permit imprint, the city does, you can have the printer print them and take them directly to the Oregon City Post Office without having to pay the middleman.
We can look in, I mean, I'm not involved with the contract, but we can look into the contract with Buell's and.
I totally went.
Now that
I
we
mean,
have
I
an
totally know
inside
this.
source on from the USPS,
So I worked that.
I think we should look at that.
Because I believe it might save you some money if you already have a bulk permit imprint. Because they have to accept it in Oregon City if you have a permit in Oregon City.
And I don't know if we do because they contract it with Buell's, who always takes, well, I don't, does all printing?
He gives it to somebody else.
I know, Metro
And they
Printing.
go through somebody else.
I know.
And it's extra money.
What I'm asking is, the mailings that the city sends, not just CIC, all of them, does Buell's have the contract for all city printing right now?
No.
Okay.
Janice, would you mind putting that in an email for me? Because I want to forward that on to the person who does the contract.
Okay, I'll see if I can figure out how much the permit, I think it permits $225 a year, and then,
I know we have a book permit, but everything you're saying is, I don't know. So if you can put that in an email, I can forward that on, the details.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad that was brought up because what I've read as far as getting our mailings out is it's a pretty unwieldy process that takes so many steps just to get a lousy postcard out. It seems a little,
But if
it
everybody
seems to me it could be improved.
in Oregon City was a part of a neighborhood, which they are, that'd be 35,000 postcards.
Yeah.
but not every month.
Well, no.
But not every
It
month.
would be, that'd be one to each person. It'd
Well-
be one to each household.
Households is
whatever that figure
15,000.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah, household.
But still, it's a lot of postage.
Yes.
Okay.
So.
So I'll let my motion stand.
Oh.
That we approve the neighborhoods that are in deficit to use funds as projected by Kelsey, and that we will have a committee to try to activate and send out postcards to the other neighborhoods.
I'll second that.
We have any discussion? Been moved and seconded. Amy's motion. All in favor, raise your hands. Voting people only. Looks like it passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts to those of us who are under budget.
Yeah.
Well, by golly, we're running late here tonight, but it looks like we have come to the round table.
Okay.
And since we are so late, try to keep it as brief as possible. And if you would have any future agenda items that you want, would you please email me those so I can get in touch with the people that would be necessary? And I think I'll start with the round table with Amy.
So Gaffney Lane has an upcoming meeting on next Thursday, the 12th. We have two land use issues coming up. One is a medical building that's being proposed to be built on the triangle corner of 213 and Moala Avenue. That land is currently owned by the college, so they went before the Caulfield neighborhood because the college falls in their neighborhood, but technically that piece of land, if they subdivide, actually does fall into Gaffney Lane, so they need to come to the Gaffney Lane neighborhood. They're coming, and then Public Works will be there, so if you want more information, what Bob had asked of what they'll be there with their designs and their plans. Again, Thursday the 12th at Garden Meadows.
Only thing I have is remind everybody that April 25th, city cleanup, and Park Place Park will have a cleanup on that day also. I didn't get to the last meeting, so Bob will. Next.
We had an excellent meeting in February. We probably had 20 people there. John Lewis was there, gave a presentation that was dealing with just Kenema issues, but he was well received. And we have a steering committee coming up in about 2 weeks, maybe next week. It's next week, yeah, next week we'll have a steering committee.
Okay, we have a meeting next Tuesday. We're having it at a special location, the Clayton Moyer Commons, which is the new low-income veterans facility. In terms of, we're gonna have our meeting there, meet with them, meet with the manager of the property, and he's gonna speak. We're having Oregon City Farmers Market come and talk about their spring stuff going on to that community and to whomever else comes. And we are also having Village of the Falls come. They didn't come to our last meeting, so they're gonna speak for about 5 minutes about volunteer opportunities. And the only other concern I have, it sounds like we may have a building possibly thing at Stafford Park that we have not been informed about. We need to know, and it sounds like a big deal in the future. So if you would let us know whatever you know, that'd be awesome.
Oh, I can't. We can talk after.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, the one that's across from the Rose Farm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had a pre-application conference, but it sounds like they haven't moved forward with the neighborhood meeting.
Thank you.
Good.
It's gonna be pretty high density, isn't it?
Yeah, right by the school.
We're going to have a light at the end of Mountain View if they're going to add 100 cars a day to that. It's awful. It's awful.
And it's
Awful
right
for
near
us.
Gardner too, you know, and what's going on, you know, long term, like there's gonna,
Well,
I mean,
yeah, they come out Holmes, but they won't. They'll come out
Yeah.
Mountain View.
okay.
Sorry.
There's no light there either.
Yeah, we'll be meeting last Tuesday of the month and just pass on some stuff going on around here.
Dennis?
Pass. Don't have anything.
We had an emergency meeting last month. During our steering committee meeting, we had two presentations for land use. One of them is really exciting. It's called Olson Apartments, and it's a mixed use, businesses on the ground floor, apartments on the top floor, and it's on 7th and Monroe where Olson Drug used to be. That has been vacant for several years. The concerns about the citizens was for parking. Other than that, it seemed like a...
But they did buy the service station across the street.
Oh, okay.
And will have, they feel they'll have sufficient parking, because that'll, I think they said 17 parking spots, but it may have been more. I didn't feel well, and I just stayed for a little bit of the meeting that night, so I don't
It would be nice to get rid of that eyesore.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it looks like a nice design, so I'm excited about it.
You're going to put a couple of businesses in.
A laundromat and a deli.
Yeah.
Yep. The other item I'm a little more concerned about, it's on 5th Street between Monroe and Jackson. And it's billed as being a house for a single family, but it's very clear that it's going to be a possible group home. And they haven't actually stated that that's what it's going to be, but it looks like that's what it is. So people were very concerned about that. We're not concerned about having a group home there, just the fact that they're not saying that's what it's going to be. So that was
I don't have anything at this time.
Commissioner?
Thank you. I only have a couple of items you may be interested in. So some March events. March 13th at 4 p.m., the Clackamas Community College is having a groundbreaking event. They are building a new welcome center as part of their bond program and new buildings and stuff. So if you are supporting the community college, that may be something you're interested in. The following day on the 14th, the Oregon City Chamber of Commerce is holding their annual dinner. And that's at the Museum of the Oregon Territory in their ballroom. So if you're interested in participating, I'm sure you can reach out to the chamber and probably purchase a dinner ticket. And then last but not least, the Community Development Department, so Christina's department, posted a new guide and webpage on food carts. And I only mention this because we are still getting lots of questions about food carts. Now, granted, this page is geared toward developers, but it does cover and list the zones where food carts are allowed, and kind of starts getting into what permits, you know. So if you hear of somebody that is interested, a lot of questions always come up. It's like, can I have a food cart? Can I do this? There's new resources on our website, so I just wanted to mention that because it tends to continue to be a hot topic. They are allowed in some zones, and so that's a new resource.
Could you send that to us, Christina?
Sure can.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, well, this is my first meeting as chair, and it happens to be the longest meeting we've had in a long, long time. I apologize for that, and I can't guarantee it, but I will do my best to keep them where they used to be.
We're still gonna let you serve. You can't use that as an excuse.
This meeting is adjourned.